Have you ever wondered why farmers, the very individuals responsible for putting food on our tables, are taking to the streets worldwide in protest? This question is no longer just rhetorical. Across the globe, the individuals who sow, toil, and reap so we can eat are rising up. The reason? They're grappling with a myriad of challenges. Farmers are the backbone of our societies, but they face enormous pressures. Falling incomes, high costs, and competition from cheap imports are just a few of the issues that are driving them to protest. It's not an isolated incident. Countries across Europe such as France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Poland, Greece, Romania, and Lithuania have recently witnessed these demonstrations. Farmers in these states, from the vineyards of Italy to the wheat fields of Poland, are voicing their dissent, demanding better conditions and fairer policies. In France, for instance, farmers are rallying against the EU's stringent green policies that they believe will make European agriculture less competitive. They're calling for more support and fair prices that cover production costs. Heading east, German farmers are protesting a plan to phase out tax breaks on agricultural diesel. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, farmers are pushing back against a requirement to reduce nitrogen emissions. These protests are not just about local issues. They're reflecting a global phenomenon. Governmental policies worldwide are being scrutinized, and farmers are demanding change. They're fighting for their livelihoods, for fair treatment, and for the recognition of the vital role they play in our societies. One country where this phenomenon has gained significant attention is India, where farmers have been protesting vehemently against government policies. This is not a story of isolated discontent, but a global narrative of those who work the land raising their voices to be heard. After all, if the farmers aren't happy, it won't be long until the rest of us feel the impact too. Tune in as we delve deeper into the Indian farmers' protest in our next scene. The Indian farmers' protest has made headlines globally, but what exactly sparked this massive movement? This question is not as simple as it appears. The Indian farmers' protest, reminiscent of other farmers' protests around the world, is a complex issue deeply rooted in the country's agricultural policies. In the heart of the protests are controversial agricultural laws, introduced 2 years ago, which led to widespread discontent among farmers. The laws were aimed at liberalizing the agricultural sector, but farmers feared they would lead to the dismantling of the traditional agricultural support system and leave them vulnerable to exploitation by corporations. The ensuing protests led to the eventual repeal of these laws, a significant victory for the farmers that was celebrated across India. But the repeal of the laws didn't mark the end of the protests. Instead, they have continued, driven by a set of unfulfilled demands. The farmers are seeking guaranteed crop prices, a demand that extends beyond the traditional minimum support prices set by the government for certain essential crops. They want this to cover all farm produce, ensuring a stable income irrespective of market fluctuations. Increased income for farmers is another key demand. Despite agriculture being a significant sector in the Indian economy, the income disparity between farmers and other professionals is stark. Farmers are seeking measures that would bridge this gap and lead to an improved standard of living. Lastly, the farmers are calling for loan waivers. Farming in India is a high-risk occupation, subject to the unpredictability of monsoons and market prices. This often results in farmers falling into a cycle of debt, which they find difficult to escape. Loan waivers, the farmers believe, would provide them with much-needed financial relief. Despite the repeal of the agricultural laws, the protests persist, indicating unfulfilled demands and deeper issues at play. While the Indian farmers' protest has been a source of inspiration for many, it also highlights the need for systemic changes to address the challenges faced by the farming community. Farmers' protests aren't just about making noise, they have the power to affect change. Case in point, India. In India, the farmers' protests have had a significant impact on national politics. This power stems from their sheer numbers. As a major part of the population, farmers form a substantial voting bloc. Their demands, dissatisfaction, and protests could very well sway the pendulum in any electoral battle. Let's rewind a bit. A couple of years ago, Indian farmers took to the streets, protesting against controversial agricultural laws. Their resilience and collective action led to the repeal of these laws, marking a significant victory for the farmers. This was more than just a protest. It was a demonstration of the farmers' ability to challenge and change national policies. Fast forward to today. Tens of thousands of farmers are marching towards the capital once again, demanding guaranteed crop prices. The government's failure to fulfill their earlier demands has rekindled the spirit of protest. The farmers' demands are not limited to crop prices. They are seeking increased income and loan waivers, reflecting the broader issues plaguing the agricultural sector. The timing of these protests is crucial. The national elections are on the horizon, and the ruling party is under pressure. The farmers' displeasure could potentially influence the election results, putting the government in a precarious position. The farmers' protest, therefore, is not just a fight for rights and fair prices. It's a political chess game, where the farmers have become significant players. The protests have also highlighted the need for comprehensive agricultural reforms in India. The focus has shifted from mere policy changes to a more holistic approach that addresses the systemic issues in the agricultural sector. In essence, the farmers' protests have instigated a much-needed conversation about the future of farming in India. Thus, the farmers' protests in India demonstrate the potential for such movements to affect change on a national level. They are a testament to the power that lies with the farmers, the power that can shape policies and influence politics. The voice of the farmers is indeed a force to reckon with. Scene script. Farmers' protests around the world are more than just isolated incidents. They reflect a global crisis that requires urgent attention. The echoes of discontent from farmers across the globe are symptoms of a larger issue at play. From Europe to India, the agricultural world is in turmoil, and it's not just about policy changes or economic factors. It's about the survival and sustainability of a sector that has fed civilizations for centuries. In Europe, farmers are facing the brunt of strict green policies, falling incomes, rising costs, and competition from cheap imports. In India, the struggle is for guaranteed crop prices and a fair share in the nation's economic growth. These are not just singular, isolated issues, but part of a broader narrative: the urgent need for fair and supportive agricultural policies worldwide. The voices of the farmers are clear. They demand policies that will ensure their survival and not push them into a corner. Policies that allow them to continue their age-old traditions and practices, while also adapting to the new world. Policies that recognize the importance of their work and the challenges they face. But this is not just about the farmers, it's about all of us. Our food systems are intrinsically linked to the well-being of our farmers. If they suffer, our food supply suffers. If they prosper, we all prosper. Therefore, it's crucial that we put pressure on our governments, urging them to take action and address the issues faced by our farmers. This is a call to action for everyone, everywhere. Because the plight of farmers is not just a local issue, it's a global crisis that impacts each one of us, directly or indirectly. We all have a role to play in this. We need to raise awareness, support our local farmers, and push for policies that will ensure their survival and prosperity. So, let's stand with our farmers. Let's acknowledge their struggles and support their cause, because their fight is our fight. Their victory, our victory. It's high time we listen to the voices of our farmers, for their plight is not just their own. It affects us all. So, what can we glean from our exploration of farmers' protests around the globe? From our journey across continents, we find a common thread. Farmers worldwide are grappling with falling incomes, high costs, and cheap imports. The introduction of new environmental policies, while crucial for the health of our planet, are perceived to be exacerbating these issues, with farmers fearing these regulations will make their operations less competitive. A closer look at the Indian farmers' protest gives us a snapshot of the broader global picture. Tens of thousands of farmers are demanding guaranteed minimum support prices for all farm produce. Their protests, a continuation of a movement that saw the repeal of controversial agricultural laws 2 years ago, serve as a poignant reminder that the call for fair agricultural policies is far from over. The Indian farmers' protest also underscores the socio-political implications of such movements. With national elections on the horizon, the farmers, a significant voting bloc, could potentially sway the political landscape. This underlines the power of collective action and the influence it can hold over national politics. As we cast our net wider, we see that farmers' protests are not confined to one nation or region. From France to Poland, farmers are making their voices heard, demanding fair prices that cover production costs, and calling for reforms that address their specific grievances. These protests are more than just a cry for help from a struggling sector. They are a stark reminder of the intricate link between agriculture and our daily lives. The food on our plate, the health of our environment, and the future of our global food supply all hinge on the well-being of our farmers. So, as we step back and take in the full picture, we see that the farmers' protests are a call to action for all of us. It's about creating a fair and sustainable agricultural system that supports those who feed the world. Remember, when farmers protest, it isn't just about them. It's about the food on our tables, the health of our environment, and the future of our global food supply.